Hello and welcome to Guna Gathering, where it's not Lee, it's me back in the hosting seat. And after we had an honoured guest in Josh last time, I'm delighted to announce that Sam is joining me tonight, although he seems to have frozen, which is terrible timing. Here he is, he's back. Hey Sam, how are you?
This might be how we are, but we'll work with it. Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Very well, very well. I've run in the door from coaching junior football
Yeah,
to host it now.
looking very manager-esque.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's just as long as I don't have to wear a coat, we'd be all right because I'll get stuck in it Wenger style. I was going to say, we are here anyway tonight while Sam hopefully unsticks. Otherwise, there's going to be a lot of monologuing here to talk about the game that we have coming up against Everton tomorrow. It's going to be the last game between Arsenal and Everton at Goodison. I'm going to ask you a tricky one straight off the bat, Sam. What's your favourite memory of a game, either at Goodison or against Everton, before we go into the preview of the game? I should have probably prepped you for this.
No, you've caught me off guard there.
If not, I can tell you mine. It's one of my all-time favourite moments.
So I actually have one because I'm pretty sure it is Everton. I'm just going to fact check myself. So we played Everton in a quarter-final at the Emirates, and it was before. I'm wanting to say before the whole game. And it was at the Emirates. I went to it, so that's why I remember.
Is that? I'm assuming that's the FA Cup run that we had. He's back. Go on, Sam.
Yeah. So, yeah, if I'd have had time to think about that, I'm pretty sure.
I should have warned you.
No, it's all good. I'm pretty sure it was Everton because I remember it. The fans are awful. They were literally chucking bottles of wee into the Arsenal fans. So yeah, that was really good of them. Yeah, I'm sure it was. I'm still fact checking.
Well, can you remember what happened in the game? Well, you check it was Everton.
So I think it was. Hang on. I'm pretty sure I remember.
Well, while Sam does that, I will very quickly do mine. And mine was our first title win where we won the league against Everton and we absolutely thumped them at home. I think it was Tony Adams got the last one in a big win to secure the title. That was my favourite moment against Everton. That was obviously at the old Highbury ground. Lovely moment to win the league in that one. I just remember being in the back of the car listening to it on the radio and just thinking this can't get any better. And then it did. Absolutely amazing title win, and it came against Everton.
I remember that we 4-1, and that that I said to the Everton fans that I saw afterwards that if you'd have spent more time getting behind your players than hurling abuse and
Oh no, we've lost Sam again. Sam, I'm going to quickly. There you go, Sam. I'm going to remove you. Oh, quick! I might have to, if it keeps on, we might have to remove you and bring you back in, and hope that fixes it. But
yeah, no, that's fine.
But hopefully, we keep going. We keep trying for the second.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's gone. I'm hoping we will have Sam back in a minute. But in the meantime, while I wait, hopefully for Sam to come back in. If Sam gives me a message when he's ready, I'll bring him back in. But we obviously have Everton at Goodison in what is going to be as I say, a last game at Goodison Park against Arsenal for Everton. But our Arsenal obviously will be up against a side in Everton that will be combative. They will look to sit in deep and they will look to hit on the break. And that's been everything that Arsenal have really struggled with this season. It's been a season of many struggles this year. But one of the things they definitely struggled with is that low block, getting men behind the ball, showing a lack of ambition. And we certainly struggled with that when they came to the Emirates, which of course was 0-0 earlier this season. and and I think it'll be more of the same tomorrow from Everton. They will play for set pieces. They will look to hit on the break, and we kind of saw how they played against Liverpool, and I think that'll be the game plan here again for them again. Very similar. Unfortunately, they weren't able at Anfield to do us a favour. Although I think the title's gone anyway. But I think that sort of set the stage, as I say, for the way they were going to play. I'm hoping that Sam is ready to come back in. I am just going to try and add him again now, and let's see what happens. Sam, is that? Hopefully, that's going better now. He's on mute. Let me unmute him. This is going well.
I'll unmute myself. Yeah, hopefully
there we go. Yeah, that's much better.
We have been having some issues here. I had to on my video the other day. I had to use my laptop software to record a video.
Oh no. As Lee says in the chat, please donate to improve Sam's Wi-Fi. Oh dear me, we True Gooner. He often has problems with his Wi-Fi. We used to call him McDonald's Wi-Fi. It's transferred to you, mate. Oh dear. Oh dear me. Right. Well, Sam. Oh, hello. He's back.
I am. I'm not gonna. I'm gonna try my best. We'll just have to work.
But Sam, you were talking obviously about the Everton game as it's your favourite moment, which was on that cup run. Which is a nice personal memory for you as well. But I was just saying, while you were struggling to connect, and he's gone again. That Everton are going to sit in and defend deep and look to hit on the break. As I say, Arsenal have really struggled with that this season. And my view here is that Arsenal, to overcome that, are going to have to play at a slightly higher intensity than they normally do. They're going to have to move that ball quicker. They're going to have to move the ball wide and then come back in and just clever movement, high intensity, and try and move those Everton defenders around. Sam, what do you think the game plan should be against Everton? And then we'll come on to sort of talk about how Arsenal approach it with Real Madrid in mind, because I think probably the game plan somewhat is one of the factors that Arteta is going to have to think about here as he comes into this game. So how would you go about trying to sort of unlock that low block and whilst making sure you sort of remain safe at the back?
It's really tricky, isn't it? Because we have a really physical game on our hands when we really don't need any more injuries or any more knocks. So this game has come at a very unfortunate time. As we know, Everton a physical team. So that worries me slightly. We've got to. I think we've come up with this. We've come up against a situation of teams trying to sit in and quite a lot. We haven't.
Oh, dear me. It's gone again. I think the point, Sam. Oh, there you go, Sam. I'm assuming you were going to say that we haven't done well this season against that on multiple occasions.
No, we kind of bombard with attack, but that doesn't really work because that just helps the other team to do that more. So we really do need to find a way to do that. But like I say, it's come at a weird time because we need to make sure that the team that we've got now, which is paper thin, we protect them as best as we can. Interesting, because Lee said that yes, we can rest all the players. Like I said, we can do, but then at the same time, second place is really not going.
So I think the point Sam's making here is that obviously Real Madrid is going to be the priority, but Champions League not secure yet. And of course, Champions League football next year is going to be really, really important. And I think Anthony makes a point here that David Moyes has got Everton playing probably much better than anyone expected. I personally thought Sean Dyche doing a good job on limited sort of funds and with a limited side in Everton was doing a good job. But David Moyes has improved it massively since he arrived.
Yeah, it's who were in a little bit of a dire situation. So it's got slightly better for them now. But yeah, it's really not an easy game either. I guess I pass that one back to you. Like, how do you think? I don't know if you answered it while I was running myself downstairs. What do you think we've got to do?
So I think for me, I mean, we should come on to sort of how you sort of approach the Real Madrid game. But for me, my big criticism of Arteta this season, and I kind of understand it, is where there's been a lot of injuries, he's gone to his strengths, right? And the strengths of a team are in defence, and he's tried to hold the opposition, make sure we defend well, keep the ball, protect the players by playing slower tempo football. But I think that what happens then as a result is the attack is slow. It allows teams that like to low block to get into position. And I think the way you unlock that is to do what we sort of did at times really against Fulham in many ways, which was move the ball quicker, attack more directly, go at players a little bit more, and create the space that way and take a little bit more risk with the passing. And it might mean that Odegaard, for instance, who's sort of the man you'd expect to most unlock the ball, he might make 30 passes in the final third, for instance, and he might only complete 50% of them because he's taking more risk with that ball. At the moment, we do this horseshoe, and it's too slow, too sideways, too predictable, and too easy to get behind. But when you move the ball quickly, I think that's the key. And I've talked about that a lot this season. I think that's been missing from our game. And I think that's the way that we unlock it. I am going to quickly go. Sam, I don't know if you heard that, but I was just basically saying we need to move the ball quicker. I don't know if you think that's going to be the key.
Yeah, it's almost like if we could invent a time machine and go back to a couple of seasons ago when our football was really free-flowing and exciting and people hadn't worked us out yet. That's kind of what we need to adopt. I just don't know how we do that because we haven't played like that in quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, I always felt that was unsustainable,
Mm-hmm.
to be honest. And I think we sort of saw it with Liverpool last year, that tempo football for the whole season is almost, you just can't keep it up. And we saw Arsenal fall off a cliff 2 years ago doing it and Liverpool doing the same last year. But I think somewhere nearer what we did last year, which was we would go at teams really hard. We'd get a goal or two, and then we would sit and hold on to it a little bit more. And you're holding on to it from a position of strength where you can keep the ball, sort of City style, tire them out, and restrict them to no chances. I think this year it's been too slow. We've relied on the defence, and suddenly at 1-0, one mistake, and you've lost points. So I think that's been somewhat impacted by the personnel and lack of ability to change that sort of in attack and almost trying to protect the team a little bit too much. But I think that Arteta still should and could have done that more. I kind of understood why, but I think that was the wrong thing. I think when he looks back on the season from his perspective of what he could have done better, January is obviously something the club could have done better, but he could have done better. That's the thing I think he must feel he's let himself and the players down the most on.
Yeah, I think that with it, the defence has got weaker though, hasn't it? In some form, I know injuries can't be helped and stuff. We've had a lot of them, but when we were scoring the goal and then sitting back.
I think to finish Sam's point here was we were sitting back, but we didn't quite have the lead or the sort of protection going forward for the defence because there was less of a threat. I'm assuming that's what you're going to say, Sam. He's still gone, but yeah, less of a threat there, and therefore you're relying on defence more. But with the unfamiliarity of the defence as well, that doesn't help because it means you've got more likely to make a mistake because you're not used to the back four because it's chopping and changing so much.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things we don't feel that I don't feel that confident when we go in front that we're going to stay that way. Like 2-0, we were on easy street yesterday, but suddenly when they scored, only had 3 minutes left, but you were already still panicking and you're thinking, oh my.
Yeah, and I think again, Sam's saying here about panicking, and I think that's right. You sort of trust their defence slightly less this year, and particularly, I think going forward for the rest of the season with no Gabriel next to Saliba, you worried a little bit more because Gabriel is so adept at covering the space that the left back leads because of the way we play, which is the left back's high, goes into midfield much more, and it leaves the space. And that has a lot of positives going forward, but it leaves more space. And without Gabriel, you worry more about that defence and holding on to it.
Yeah.
think that's again. Sorry, I'm talking for you there because you cut out again, but I think that's what
Yeah.
you were going to say.
No, exactly. It's obviously when we go on to Real Madrid, it's slightly better than what I thought it was when I was on Josh's channel the other night and we were chatting about it. Because we've obviously had some negative news, but some positive injury news as well. But again, this could all be undone tomorrow, so we do need to be really, really careful with who we play and make sure that we've got enough to win. But if you can protect any of the players that we really need, I think we need to be looking at doing that.
Yeah, and I think that's the key thing, isn't it, here? And AFC always, I'm just going to sort of go through the chat very quickly. But I think this is the key, isn't it? Is what do you do tomorrow? Because we were talking earlier about the Champions League isn't secure. I think it will probably be fine because I think the teams below us will drop points, and I think we'll pick up enough points going forward. And that's not what we want to be talking about at this stage of the season, but that is where we are. But it's not guaranteed. So you can't just throw away games because you need to get some points. And Everton, for all they've improved, as we were discussing under David Moyes, are still a decent side and also a side that Arsenal struggle against stylistically. So it is going to be difficult. And AFC always here, and I'm going to sort of run through the chat just to sort of catch us up a little bit. There's a couple of private sort of messages between people that I will pass over here, but welcome everyone in the chat. And if you've got questions for us, do just put a quick Q in there and I will ask them of Sam and I. But we should come to sort of how we approach it from this point of view. And AFC always here is saying he would rest 5 or 6 players tomorrow for Everton. Yes, they might kick us and bruise us, and because they might kick us and bruise us, and we all need the players available for the Real Madrid game. And I think that's one way of looking at it. The other is what we were just talking about here: is do you need to get the points to secure it in the league? And he's saying here, drop Odegaard and play Zinchenko there tomorrow. Saskia Guna, hope White and Timber can be healthy. I think we all do. Although this one, just to make me laugh here, Spud's waiting for you down in 15th or 16th. Of course, St. Tottingham's Day was yesterday, so that Tottingham's Day, yeah, was a good one, good point, a good day to have. I'm just going to welcome a few more here. Voodoo Doll Gaming here. Big up Dom, smash up the likes. Well, Lee's channel, and welcome to Sam too. But do give the likes for Lee too. Actually, this is going out on mine as well, so I'm not sure which one you're watching it through, but give both channels a like. And Matthew Davis here has come on you toffees. I think this is a friend of mine who is a Spurs fan. So hopefully you enjoyed yesterday, Matt. If it is you.
I was going to ask him. I thought it was an Everton fan, and I was going to politely ask him what he thought of the game. But no, definitely not now.
I think that is Matt. He's a lovely guy, to be fair. And then finally, just to sort of catch up with the chat, mostly, Gabriel is the spine of the team. It's a massive blow losing. I mean, absolutely. But to go back to AFC always is everywhere's point. I'm just going to refer to you as AFC always because it's much easier for me. Is what do you do team-wise? Because you do have that sort of dual threat we're running. Do you rest everyone or do you go strong? So what would your view be? Because it's a real dilemma for Mikel Arteta tomorrow.
It is. I don't quite know the answer because I think we could go back and forth here with everyone in the comments and yourself and kind of come up with all these different plots. I think we've got to be sensible. It's no good, although AFC always is completely right in terms of resting players. I think it's completely pointless to switch somebody into a position that they can't play at all, just for the sake of resting the player. Because we've ultimately still got to win these games. We want to go into Madrid on a win. The last thing we want to do when the cards are stacked against us anyway is go into a game having lost in the league to Everton. So you've got to be sensible. I think if you've got players like
I'm going to give him a few seconds until he comes back. As the comment here says, the joys of live streaming.
Yeah,
I've had to try and predict what you said a couple of times. Hopefully, I've got it about right.
No, you have. It seems to be perfect, and then all of a sudden, it just decides to not stop. We had some new internet put in, and it's just one day it suddenly decided to turn, and since then it's not come back. So, yeah, it's like in positions like Martinelli, for example, when he played really well the other evening, it's looking at, right, we really need him for the game. So what can we do there? Put Trossard in. Left back and right back is a real trouble for us at the minute, and centre back. So taking out Ben White, give him a game off, and putting Zinchenko in places that he can play, or Timber the same, like if possible. I'm sure we can survive tomorrow with Kivior at centre back. So, yeah, Jorginho, for example, these players that we've got as squad players need to come in tomorrow and do a job for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way I'd be looking at it if I was Mikel Arteta is, what team do I ideally want to play against Real Madrid, right? You know, and I think he knows that. And therefore, from there, you work backwards and then go, okay, this is a team I want. Work with the doctors and physios and sports scientists now and go, any player can get injured at any time, but who is the most likely to get injured now based on where they're at? And you'd have thought that the conversations there are going to be around Saliba, because he's absolutely crucial. Is he anywhere near? Timber and White are coming into the back of this game. They're going to be a late fitness test. We don't know if they're fit. Where are they? Timber probably the more crucial of those two because he's the one that's sort of more match fit. Ben White, of course, just coming back with his own injury. Martinelli, how is he? Saka, what's the best way to get him ready for Real Madrid? Is it to give him 60 minutes from the start, or is it bring him on off the bench again? These are the decisions he's going to have to make. And I think you were sort of hitting the nail on the head there, really, which is it's going to be the fullback positions. I think they're going to be crucial because I don't think you want Zinchenko at left back against Real Madrid. Kieran Tierney, for all he's a very good defender, not necessarily match fit. So again, that's a real big risk because their threat is going forward, and you definitely need Saliba. Ben White, it's not Ben White, Declan Rice being fit in central midfield is going to be absolutely key. So where's he at? And that's where I think players like Jorginho can come in risk free. What you don't necessarily want to do is bring in a player, from the youth side, because that's what we're going to need to do numbers wise. That's where you're going to have to be sensible. And you can't just go, I'm going to make 10 changes, because I think that could have real negative consequences. So I think they're the sort of things that he has to look at. And I think, AFC always here is saying, and we don't like it, right? But I think this might be something he might have to look at tomorrow. If Ben White's not fit tomorrow, he can't start against Real Madrid in any way, shape, or form. But also, Yuri and Timber, if he's a doubt, if those two are out, I think it's going to have to be Partey at right back tomorrow. And I don't think you take a risk with either of those players. And ultimately, I think it sums up the season when you're down to your fourth choice right back, having to potentially start yet another game for us this season. With no Tomiyasu, potentially no White, potentially no Timber. I've lost Sam again there. So I'm going to sort of run through what I think my 11 would be, and I'm going to make the assumption here that Ben White is only fit for the Ben White is fit, and Yuri and Timber's only fit for. Oh, there you go. Sam's back. I'm going to run through my 11 in a minute, but what would your 11 be for tomorrow, based on all of those things?
So Neto can play tomorrow. That's a given, for sure.
For real?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to just quickly interrupt you there because actually, Voodoo Dog Gaming is like playing something like, would you rest Rare for the Everton game? So you would?
I think I would. Neto is versed in the Premier League. I know he didn't have his best game for sure the other day. The last time he played, sorry, but
in the Champions League, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, but he's versed in the Premier League. He's played Everton plenty of times, so that's again one of those sensible things I would do. Not to say that he's going to do it. I don't think he thinks like any of us. I think he thinks completely in his own mindset. And then Tierney at left back. Again, to be honest, you could see, this is the thing. We've got to be sensible. We could either play Zinchenko or Tierney, couldn't we? Either side, because they are professionals still, and if they can come in and do a job. So again, I'm trying to think. Right, I'm going to get my little a funky side thing to help me.
Do you want me to give you a minute to go through your side, and I'll go through mine while you?
Yeah, you go through yours.
So for me, while players are dropping like flies, I think Raya's rhythm and familiarity and the comfort level the players have with him, I think is going to be crucial tomorrow, because it's going to be a different back four, and I think having the familiarity of Raya behind is going to be really, really crucial. I think then the next decision you've got to make is who do you want your centre back pairing to be? So while I think, playing Saliba tomorrow is a risk, he's going to start against Real Madrid and he's going to start with a new centre back partner. So is that Kivior or is that going to be Ben White? Because I think Ben White, if he starts against Real Madrid, has to start as centre back rather than right back because it's a less physically demanding position for him as he comes back off injury. So I think whichever one of those two starts against Real Madrid starts this game, and then if it's Ben White, let's play him for 60 minutes, then Kivior on for the last 30 minutes to make sure Ben White doesn't or reduces the risk of injury. But I think it will be Kivior tomorrow alongside Saliba, and then I think Ben White starts at right back, but if he's not fit, I don't risk Timber at all for this game. And then it's going to have to be Partey at right back. And then at left back, I'm with you. It's Kieran Tierney. Midfield, then I think it's going to be. I'm trying to remember what side I picked earlier, so it might be different. But it would be. I'm assuming Partey's fit. I think Jorginho starts with Partey, with Rice getting a rest, unless Partey starts at right back, obviously. But I've gone for Ben White right back. And then it's Odegaard with Trossard left, Ranieri right, and it'll be Moreno, who, by the way, is one of the most informed strikers in Europe, believe it or not, at the moment, through the middle. So I think that's a side, but I think Bukayo Saka needs to come on half an hour at least. And you could maybe drop him for Odegaard, who is really struggling. I mean, someone said it earlier in the chat. He is really struggling this season. Move Ranieri inside, and then get Martinelli some minutes off the bench. So I think that's the side I go for, which is a few players getting a rest there. Another option is Zinchenko into midfield, of course, but I'm not sure I'd drop both of my starting centre midfielders because, again, I think you just need that spine and a bit of familiarity there, or else it looks very disjointed. And I think that's a nice balance in between players getting a rest and players not. I'm resting Martinelli, I'm resting Saka, I'm resting Timber. Ideally, I'm resting Declan Rice, and I'm resting MLS. So it's quite a lot of changes there. But, I think that kind of does it for me.
Right, let me try this. This could go completely wrong, or it could not. So, let's have a look. So, can you see a lineup next to me now?
No.
Okay.
Hang on. Yeah, hang on. Oh, I can add it to stage. There we go.
There we go. Right. So I've had to change this around a bit because obviously it doesn't like players that shouldn't be in the positions in the actual positions, and Tierney doesn't exist on this Arsenal XI, which is a little bit like his position in the squad now, anyway. So when it comes back on, so I've gone for Neto in goal, Zinchenko left back, Kivior currently.
Who's your second centre back there, Sam?
This was
Sam's being there. We go. I think trying to run two things at once is going to kill you, internet wise. I'm assuming not Gabriel at centre back. Go on then, Sam. Let's try again.
Is that good? He can play two positions. And then I would then go Partey at right back because Kieran Tierney doesn't exist on here. I would go Jorginho, Odegaard.
So just run through your back four again, Sam, for me.
Yeah. So
you've got Neto in goal, and then run through your back four right to left for me.
So right to left, Partey, Saliba, Kivior, and Zinchenko.
Yeah.
I would then go. Oh no.
The suspense is killing me.
I'm going to have to go Partey.
Sam is very much on the old McDonald's Wi-Fi.
Honestly, I think it would be better currently if I was sat at McDonald's.
I'm not going to disagree with you. Uh, yeah, I made the joke earlier. He's definitely on it. We might have to start a GoFundMe page for Sam after the success of the GoFundMe page for Josh.
So I'm going to put my full team in the comment, and then you can put it up as a comment. We'll have to
Yeah,
adapt.
go for it. So while you're doing that, I'm just going to address a couple of questions here. So AFC always saying here, would you play Timber next to Saliba, or would Rice be a better option than having Kivior there for the Real Madrid game? So, I mean, Kivior is what he is, right? He came in January. He was a defender that's available. He's done no more than okay. Like, he's now the fourth, fifth choice defender. I don't think any of us really want to see him against Mbappe, to be honest with you. I think I would want to see Timber at right back because Vinicius Junior is that good. But I think you need your best and fittest right back available. So for me, I'm not playing Timber next to Saliba, but Ben White is an option, and I definitely don't want to see Rice out of midfield. So I think Rice has to play midfield, Timber has to play right back, and then I think it's got to be between White and White or Kivior to partner Saliba. In all honesty, I think that's going to come down to a fitness thing. Sam, hopefully you heard that while you're writing your team out, which I will put up in a second. But thoughts on that? Would you play Timber there? Every time I ask him a question, but there we go. That's my thoughts on that. He's back. No, it's not going to work. I'd love to see Tierney get a game, but we know Arteta won't play him. I think he's going to have to decide here on what he wants to do about Miles Lewis-Skelly. I think if he wants him to get minutes ahead of the game, then he's going to start. But I wouldn't be shocked to see Kieran Tierney or Zinchenko start at left back tomorrow. And he has used Tierney off the bench a fair bit this season, but I agree. I think, if you've got Tierney, you're going to need to use him a little bit more than he has. Lee saying that a lot of people want to see him start against Real Madrid. And I think, again, there's an option here, isn't there? Because this is going to come down to his fitness versus experience versus, who's the better player. Kieran Tierney, a fantastic left back. Shame what's happened to him in terms of his fitness and what have you, and obviously not necessarily system fit anymore for Kieran Tierney. But he is a very good defender. Reminds me very much of Carl Walker. In his time at City, his ability to sort of, keep pace with the best wingers and mark them and do a really good, solid defensive job. And I think he could do that on the right there against probably Rodrigo. Sam, I don't know if you can hear me. But thoughts on Kieran Tierney? Would you start him either tomorrow against Real?
Yeah, so I would start. So he's in my team for tomorrow. Now I've shifted it around a little bit. So I'm hoping that I'm going to try something else, but I'm hoping at the moment you can just hear me via voice.
I can hear you fine. I think this is working better without you on camera. No offense, you're a handsome man, but I can hear your voice better.
I think I would rather not keep cutting out and keep pulling random faces when it does. So if I can, I'm not stopping now, so I can probably run through my team in one go.
We're holding you much better. Let's go for your team here.
Yeah,
start again because I think we've probably mostly forgotten what it was.
Yeah, I think I've had 10 different teams now, so this might be quite hard. So Neto in goal, left back Zinchenko, centre back Kivior in both positions. So Kivior and Saliba. Right back Partey. CDM Jorginho and Rice. Odegaard, because I think both have got to play to be ready for Real Madrid. So we have got to risk some of these players because we don't want them having a week off, really. And then Trossard, Moreno, and
Wenieri.
Ethan.
And go on. Yeah, I think that's your 11, isn't it?
Yeah, and then potentially think about if we're in a nice position where the game's won, then you start thinking about, right, shall I put Saka on for the last 10 minutes just so he's had a run out in the game?
So go on.
Yeah, but but that, as I'm saying it, is fairly risky still, because Everton aren't going to just magically not be a physical team. So I say that, but then every time I probably think about loads of these positions could change. But yeah, that's what I'm going to go with.
So I mean, if you want to take a similar approach to me, you're going to have to rest some, but you can't rest everybody, right? Because you've got to still try and win the game. I think what we can't focus on too much is, are Everton going to hurt our players? You can hurt yourself at any point. You can have a freak incident. Look at, Moreno's first training session. He ran into Gabriel 10 minutes in and broke his shoulder, right? So I don't think we can think about it too much from that point of view. I think you've got to think about it from their physical fitness point of view. I definitely think, though, that Saka is going to need more than 10 minutes. I think, otherwise he's going into the game with 30 minutes football under his belt. So I think he's going to need half an hour or so, because that game against Real Madrid is going to be high intensity, and we need to sort of test his body a little bit more. And ultimately, if he can't do half an hour for me against Everton, he can't do however long against Real Madrid, right?
Yeah.
He needs careful management. You can't just go and chuck him in for 90 minutes versus Everton and expect him to be fit on Tuesday night for Real Madrid. But I think he's definitely got to play more than 10 minutes there.
Yeah, you're probably right. But it's just in terms of, because I think the thing is, we saw exactly what he can do as soon as he came straight back into the team. But yeah, you're right in terms of us playing Fulham and us playing Real Madrid. You've got to kind of look at what both of those are as a situation separate to each other, and they're very different. No disrespect to Fulham at all, but they are very different challenges.
I mean, I don't think any Fulham fan would expect to be compared to Real Madrid, to be honest, or at least not any sensible ones, right? But I agree with your premise, right? You've got to go out there and try and win the game early, because that's the best way to protect your players. Is go out there, get 2 goals, 3 goals, and then just keep the ball. That's your best way of protecting your players fitness-wise and making sure you get the point. I just want to quickly go in here very quickly to a comment in the chat, which is Ben White is a better right back than centre back. I mean, I don't think anyone would disagree with this statement these days. I think Ben White is one of the best right backs in the league when fit. In fact, we're really lucky to have him and Timber as 2 of the best right backs in the league. I think the reason I play him at centre half rather than right back is because I think Timber is a better right back than centre half as well. But I think the main thing for me is it protects Ben White, who's just coming back from a knee operation, a little bit more, because it's less physically demanding. I think if Ben White was fully fit, you play him at right back and Timber at right centre half, which I think was what AFC always was saying earlier. But thoughts on that, Sam?
Yeah, it's again one of those tricky situations that the manager's going to have to make. This weekend is going to be one of his trickiest, I think, because he's at a point. Obviously, he's got no control of us playing Real Madrid, but it's at a tricky point now, because obviously emotions are high for everybody, as we can probably see as you go across all of the social medias. And he can do right for some people, but he can't do right for everyone currently. I think that's the normal. So I think tomorrow, if he plays Saka, for example, people are going to go nuts. But then if he doesn't play Saka when we go and lose, they're also going to go nuts. So he has to make some really difficult decisions tomorrow, and he's got to stick by them and hope and pray that they're the right decisions, basically. But yeah, I do get what you're saying in terms of being at right back demands more. You need to cover more of the pitch than as a centre back, because as a centre back you can kind of, if you need to, apart from going up for corners, you can just sit with your goalkeeper. So yeah, it's I suppose it all boils down to if he's fit at all, because we currently don't know that. I didn't see the press conference earlier, but I don't think that he said they were both definitely fit. He said that they were.
I think late decision on both, basically.
Right. Yeah. So that's touch and go as to whether they actually are fit in the first place. Because it's tricky. He's going to have to stick by his decisions and hope they're right, basically.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right there. I mean, I think that's where Mikel Arteta was at this season. I can understand the obvious frustration in the fan base this season because I think everyone was expecting a league title this season. It hasn't happened for various reasons that we won't go back into tonight. But you can
Mhm.
sort of see the Ben White debate here. Is White is a terrible centre back, much more comfortable at right back, and Lee here saying he's certainly an option to have White at centre back. And I think that he is an option. I don't think he's a terrible centre back. I think the problem with playing White at centre back is he hasn't played there for a very, very, very long time. um, is a reality there. But I think your point here about he's just going to have to back himself. I don't think there's any issues at all with Mikel Arteta backing himself. He's a very confident manager for better or worse. He's
Mhm.
incredibly confident. But your point here on Saka as well. AFC always do not start Saka tomorrow. I think I would agree. I wouldn't start Saka tomorrow. I think the only way I start Saka tomorrow is if the medical advice or the sports science advice is if you want him in peak condition, you start him and he plays 45 minutes from the start or 50 minutes or whatever it is. But I think you go with Ethan Wanyeri, and I think the smart thing from my point of view is to bring him off the bench. But whatever happens, unless we win the game tomorrow, people are going to be complaining about that side.
I think it's more exciting than the game was a couple of weeks ago, because a couple of weeks ago everything was completely doom and gloom. It still is
Yes.
now a little bit, of course, but not so much after the Fulham game. I know that I'm avoiding social media about football on purpose, but I sense that people were happy with how most of the players played, one being Martinelli against Fulham. So I think it's given us a little bit of hope until we found out about Gabriel. A little bit of hope that we can actually, I think we can say that we can go and win, but I think we can give them a good game, because I say this, and I know Lee's going to put it into a short, so if it doesn't happen, I'm going to be in trouble anyway. So I'm just going to go with it now. But yeah, it makes tomorrow exciting because he's really got to, I think, thinking about it, it's one of his biggest tests. He's had many tests, but it's one of his biggest tests that he's had tomorrow, just in a game that normally, if we didn't have Real Madrid, it wouldn't be that big of a game. It would be a game like any other in the Premier League. You have to take everybody. Everybody can beat everyone, but it wouldn't be as big as tomorrow is. Because as I think about it, the game is now more suited to fans that aren't happy with him. Because tomorrow it makes it incredibly easy for those fans to say, well, you shouldn't have started that player or you should have started this player. So I think I'm going to doubly avoid everything that happens tomorrow.
Well, apart from my match reaction, Sam, of course, which will be,
Yeah, no, of course. I still, when I say I take away most, like obviously I've still got everybody that I contribute with and stuff like that. But in just in more of a general sense, I think our social media more than any other team that I know is as bad as ours, because you've not only got the two sets of fans that have different opinions, but you've got, unfortunately, every other single football fan chiming in on those opinions as well. So, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a consequence, right, of Arsenal being a big club, right, and lots of
Mhm.
people wanting to talk about Arsenal because you get a lot of attention when you do. And I think it's a talk, and I always try and be fair and sort of try and put both sides. I'm obviously very disappointed with the season, but I'm still quite bullishly confident about Arsenal's future. And I understand that people don't agree with that, but I do understand and share the frustration this season. I do think there have genuinely been mitigating circumstances that people may or may not agree with. But I think, the Champions League is clearly where it's at for this season. And that's what, to your point, is what makes the team selection so intriguing for tomorrow. we can win tomorrow and Liverpool can lose at the weekend, and I still don't think we're winning the league. Right? I think it's gone. I still maintain that if Liverpool had our injuries or we had their level of injuries, Arsenal win the league this season. I think if you take Salah out their side for 3 months, like we lost Saka for 3 months, and that's just one player, but that's how crucial he's been to them this season. I think they fall away badly. But that hasn't happened, and Liverpool are going to be deserved champions. But it is all on the Champions League. I don't expect Arsenal to beat Real Madrid. I think we are underdogs, and I think we'd probably be underdogs even if we had a full strength side. By the way, because I think Real Madrid are the best side in Europe. But I'd be far more confident. But at no point, but equally, I'm not giving up on the tie. But the best way to do it is to get lots of players some rest tomorrow, whether that's starting them or bringing them off. Even if you're replacing, say, a starter with a starter for Real Madrid. I think that's a sort of dream tomorrow, and you sort of get a 2-3, 2-0 win, 1-0 win, doesn't really matter. But that's a sort of the dream for tomorrow, and as you say, it makes it really exciting. We've been going a while, but before I sort of come to you for a sort of score prediction, I'm just scrolling back up. I actually forgot about this man. You starting Sterling tomorrow? Sorry.
Selfishly, because I will be watching the game, I want to say no, because realistically, if I take my selfishness out of it, then probably we should. But I just find the games hard to watch in general, as we are. But with Sterling there, I really find it. I think it slows down. My biggest concern is it slows down our play, and currently it's fairly laboured and slow as it is, apart from flashes where we move the ball really well. But it slows it down even more because when the games that I've watched, when he gets the ball, he likes to stop the play. So he likes to stop the counter attack to see what his next lot of options are. But in order to break these teams down that are going to be sticking every single player behind the ball, you need to do it in a way that has them not able to think about how they're going to defend against it. So, no. In response to my answer, selfishly and realistically, I would say no. What do you think about it?
So I think you're right on Sterling, right? He's slowing the ball down. And I think a lot of this comes down to confidence. I think he is so lacking confidence now. He's taking an extra touch, not just taking an extra touch, he's taking an extra 2 touches. I find it sort of very reminiscent of Jesus before he scored against Palace or Martinelli in the early stage of the season. I ironically think if he scored a goal or 2, all of a sudden, I think we wouldn't see the Raheem Sterling of old because I think, that's past him now. But we might see the Raheem Sterling of last season who's got 15 goals and assists, which wouldn't be horrific when you're talking about that sort of option of the bench. But his confidence is through the floor, absolutely gone. As I say, I forgot about him because I was thinking about the wing options. Like, well, I'm starting Ranieri and I'm starting Trossard, and if it's not those two, it's Martinelli and it's Saka, right? And therefore Sterling is the 5th man. It's sort of very 1960s Cambridge Spyring sort of stuff there. But he and therefore I forgot about him. But I think if I start Sterling tomorrow, and there is a way I could start him tomorrow, which would be you either replace him with Odegaard so that Ranieri can come inside or Sterling starts inside. Or I think where I would start him tomorrow, if I was going to start him, would be if Mikel Moreno needs a rest. Now, I think Moreno just needs to keep playing because he hasn't played that much football this season because of various injuries, and he's getting into a groove. And the more he plays up front, the easier hopefully he will find it. He's not a centre forward, but I think overall he's done a really good job there. I'd like to see him get bursting into the box a little bit more and us get runners into the box. I think we could have put 3 or 4 past Fulham if we'd done that more. But Sterling, if you look at our number 9, it's go and press high, but also try and link the play much more. And actually Sterling sort of coming short, taking a touch, laying the ball off and then moving forward might just sort of help him, with the way he's playing at the moment, which is that little bit slower approach. But I think for me, Sterling doesn't play tomorrow at all. But maybe he's someone you bring on to give someone a rest. But but for me, he's clearly not going to be, signed by Arsenal next season. He's going to go back to Chelsea, and in some ways, it's a bit of a shame because in theory, the signing made sense as a sort of Nelson replacement. Unfortunately, he wasn't a Nelson replacement in terms of he cost the same wages wise as Nelson. You send Nelson out, you get lots of minutes into Nelson. It hasn't worked this way, and you send Sterling back, and you can increase the value of Nelson for sale this summer. But fortunately, it hasn't gone that way. Luca has just joined, but I think so. In summary, so far, before we sort of come to score predictions, and I think, guys, put your score predictions in the chat. Let us know what you think. We're basically saying that this is going to be a physical game tomorrow. It's going to be a tough one. Arsenal, it's going to be physical. It's going to be attritional. We expect Arsenal to have lots of the ball, and the key to them winning is going to be to move the ball faster. And basically, there's lots of decisions Arteta's going to need to make between balancing the fitness of the players, trying to get a result because Champions League isn't done, and getting players ready for for Real Madrid is going to be a fine balancing act for him. But Sam, I'll come to you on your score predictions for tomorrow. I will then give mine, and we will go then to sort of talk through some of the some of the score predictions in the comments.
I hate score predictions, as everybody knows, but I'm going to give one. I am going to say tomorrow, I'm going to be bold and say 3-0.
Whoa, 3-0. I'm definitely not that bold. So, I mean, I think the first goal is going to be crucial, and Arsenal getting it early is going to be crucial. I'm not sure that's necessarily going to happen, but I'm actually going to go Arsenal 2, Everton 1. I think Everton will get one from a set piece or on the counter. I think that's the only way they score. I have a horrible feeling that their rubbish striker, whose name Beto, will score tomorrow. I don't know why. But there we go. Luca is going 1-1. He's done a Real Madrid score prediction as well of 2-0 Real Madrid. Let's hope that one's wrong, Luca. No offense, but I think Real Madrid, as I discussed earlier, favourites. AFC always going Everton 2, Arsenal 1. I mean, again, this wouldn't be a surprise, right? I mean, it's so hard to predict the starting 11 or score prediction for this one because there's so many options. We just don't know what Mikel Arteta is going to go for, and Lee's backing me on 2-1 Arsenal. But as I say, really hard to predict the score tomorrow. Before we go and wrap this one up, and thankfully your internet is holding much better after the pains of this sort of first 20 minutes or so. Kevin Campbell, obviously former Arsenal player, and also former Everton player. Everton fans organising, I think, a lovely tribute tomorrow in the 9th minute tomorrow. They are going to get the whole stadium, and I think the Arsenal away fans will be joining in to chant Super Kevin Campbell in the 9th minute in honour of Arsenal Everton's number 9. I don't know if you saw much of him play, whether it was before your time or not, but thoughts on Kevin Campbell and thoughts on that for tomorrow?
I think it's really. I think this brings the goodness out of football, doesn't it? Obviously, we hear everything that's terrible about football first of all, but when two teams come together and choreograph something like this, it makes it all feel right again, because it's obviously a player that meant lots to both teams. So when both Everton and Arsenal fans during the game will be shouting and swearing at each other, it's nice on that 9th minute they can come together and do something as good as that. Obviously, as many of people that are players before their time, you kind of have to go on what other people say and the footage that you can find. So yeah, I think you've got to go off both of those things. I think the stronger thing is how people explain how they were as a footballer that saw them play week in, week out. Because yes, you can watch the odd clip of somebody. Like once upon a time, we would have seen a clip about Marouane Chamakh and thought he was the next best thing. Yeah. But we found out that YouTube does lie to us quite a lot. So yeah, I think you've really got to go off players that you didn't see play game in, game out. You've really got to go on what people that did and what they said about them, both as a football player and as a person. And I don't think I've spoke to anyone that's not said how good he was at both of those things, both on the football pitch and off the football pitch. So I think that speaks more than somebody just talking about them as a footballer as well.
And I think that's absolutely right. I mean, a great community guy, gave a lot of support to a lot of YouTubers as well that were starting out to give them support, was generous with his time, generous to the community. And as Lee and as he always has said here, as he always saying, he's a beast on the pitch and such a gentleman off the pitch. RIP Kevin Campbell and Lee here saying, saw him live in person, had a great partnership with Righty, and he absolutely did. That was a formidable front two. And such a nice guy. And I think, your point here about the two sets of fans, they will go at each other for, 89 of the 90 minutes. But that 1 minute of coming together is such a nice moment for such a nice man. I think it's good to see. There's a lot of ills in football, a lot of ills with sort of fan base, and we saw it again after James Tarkowski getting a whole load of online abuse after the attack, where he should have been sent off. No question. I think anyone, including James Tarkowski, would deny he should have been sent off in that moment. But again, the online abuse, it's a sort of theme. It's something I've talked about a lot this season. So to have that moment where the fans come together, to your point, it is going to be a lovely moment together. I think here as well, ASE always talking about David Rocky Roycastle. It's 24th year of his passing. I'm just going to do a quick plug for a video I did earlier this week. Please do go and check that out on him. It's a little short, that came out on the 31st of March, obviously. He again, another player that's going to be missed, and another absolute beast of a player who again did a lot of work in the community, and like Kevin Campbell, massively missed. So thank you, ASE, always for raising that point. I think we've probably come to the end of the preview, Sam, and apologies to everyone and thank you to everyone that bared with us for the first 25 minutes or so while we had those technical issues. Sam, anything else you want to say on the game, or anything you want to talk about that you've got coming up?
We've just got to hope for the best, haven't we? That's all we can do at this point. I think being around both yourself and Lee helps, because I sway between this positive and cynical fan quite a lot. But actually, it's allowed me to think, right, do you know what? I can stand and be sad about us losing, which I will be still. That doesn't take that away. That's always going to happen. But we've just got to hope for the best at this point.
That's very kind of you say. I mean, I think the perspective, and I'm talking for Lee here, but I think it's true for both of us, is we've been around a long time. We've sort of seen the highs and lows. We've sort of seen the disappointments of Arsenal. We've seen the highs of Arsenal, and I think we've also sort of seen seen seasons where things haven't gone well, and we sort of seen things that are one-offs, and you have to hope this season is a one-off. If it isn't, the Arteta experiment is over. But I think what has happened this season is it doesn't fit a pattern, and it doesn't fit a pattern of history. And when you look at history, it kind of tells you quite a lot. And I think hopefully that sort of helps. And Lee and I are also both naturally very positive people who will always try and see the best of things. I think both of us have been critical of the club at times, and I think sometimes that gets lost, amongst the positivity. But we also understand the frustration of fan base, particularly as a lot of people have never seen Arsenal win anything other than an FA Cup. Lee and I have been fortunate enough to watch, several league titles. We are still 21, of course. We've been 21 for the last several years. But we are fortunate enough. I think we can probably understand that frustration. But I think that context and that perspective, because we're that bit older, can sometimes be quite helpful. But I appreciate the kind words. Did you want to give a plug for anything? I know you've got some exciting news on your wrestling channel coming up. I don't know if you're going to say that or where you want to talk about that at all. But for anyone interested, I think it sounds very exciting. I mean, I know nothing about wrestling, but by all accounts, it's very exciting.
Yeah, no, it is really exciting. I'm going to leave it as that to keep people on the edge, as it's best to do in this business. Keep them waiting and keep them expecting really good things. But I can give away the name of the channel, which is...
Yeah, I was going to say, if you give a quick plug to the channel in case there are some wrestling fans out there.
Yeah, I'm sure you've obviously heard us all on both sets. Say it 100 times, which is fantastic. But yeah, come check us out on Wrestle Dogs. I'm in the process of having some more exciting news about everything, but that is still quote unquote pending. So yeah, no, nothing really apart from that.
Well, there you go. If you are a wrestling fan, please go and check out Wrestling Dog. I am going to say thank you once again to everyone that has asked a question, commented in the chat. It's been a really nice chat this evening. If you are watching on either my channel or Lee's channel, please go and check out the other channel. The two channels are Gooner Gathering and Arsenal Domination. And please do give us a like. Content-wise, coming up, I have a preview out on the game currently for tomorrow. So you can sort of see all my thoughts in one 8-minute video there. And I'm sure I will do a match reaction for both channels after the game tomorrow, hopefully. But yeah, thank you once again, and a massive thank you to Lee for setting this up. He hopefully will be back on the channel soon. And lastly, while I'm doing thank yous, and I always save the best to last, he's like Bisto. Is big thank you to Sam for persevering through his internet issues and for joining me tonight, Sam. Big thank you to you for coming on.
No, that's all good. I guess to point out as well for things coming up for us on here. We are in the process of working out what our schedule on Tuesday looks like for the Madrid game. I think we have basically decided that we are going to let the bigwigs of the YouTube world take over the live match coverage, because some of the words that I say in particular won't be YouTube friendly, I would imagine. Tensions will be high in the Wilson household. But we are thinking of jumping on after the game to kind of talk about our thoughts on it. Good news on Lee as well.
He's a late fitness test.
Yeah, a little bit like Timber and Ben White for tomorrow. He's a late fitness test. But things are better for him, which is really good. So hopefully we should be back with everyone soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully our dear leader will be back very soon, and you won't have to put up with me hosting for much longer. But yeah, get well soon to Lee. And absolutely, I was out coaching and I didn't see that in the chat. But as Sam was talking, I noticed it. I think that is the plan for Tuesday. So hopefully you can see sort of a thoughts after the game on Tuesday. After that on Gooner Gathering. I will hopefully make it back for kickoff. Hopefully my train will not be delayed, because otherwise I will be, crying somewhere in a corner. But as I say, I'm going to end the stream here because I've gone a little bit longer than anticipated after the early issues. But thank you ever so much to everyone for coming along tonight. And hopefully we enjoy the game and get 3 points tomorrow. Have a good evening, everyone. We will see you soon. Thanks. Bye.